Hey, what's up, everybody? Frederick Polk here. Today I want to talk about extinction burst and why I think that's what we're seeing from the Trump administration. It's an extinction burst. So what is extinction burst? Well, what it is it's a psychological term that usually applies to child psychology. Basically, in a nutshell, it's right before consequences hit or whatever bad behavior they've been engaging in is about to end. There's a burst of horrible behavior that might even exceed the thing that they're getting punished for, right? For those of you who are parents, you might know this as acting up. Or you're about to put your child in timeout or take away screen time or whatever, right? Whatever punishment they know is coming. They throw a tantrum, they might even throw things, they yell and scream, and that behavior is worse than the thing they got in trouble for, right? That's the extinction burst. And you see this from a lot of extremist movements, especially cults of personality, right? Cults usually end when the leader feels that he can no longer exert total control over his followers, or they're trying to break away. And usually that's a result of the cult leader demanding more and more and more control because of their own personality or psychological defects. Malignant narcissism, sociopathy, that kind of stuff. Think of it's like Hitler in the bunker in the last days of World War II, when he's moving fictional armies around on a map that don't even exist. And his generals aren't really saying anything to him. If you've seen that famous meme of Hitler freaking out, that's, when basically they finally tell him the truth. And he realizes it's over. And so what you're seeing from Trump and what he's doing and this MAGA movement is really just a long extinction burst. Now, the difference between this and, say, a child acting out is that historical movements take a long time for them to flourish, right? The situation has to be right for extremism to take hold. Hitler fails in his first beer hall putsch and gets in jail because things hadn't gotten bad enough to where the Nazis can come in and say, we'll fix everything, we have a plan, and then they take power. That's why you're seeing Trump make the moves that he's making. Because one of the faults that I do a lot is I ascribe intelligence to actors that are not using intelligence, that are, in a sense, acting out of their own psychological defects or irrationality or things that just don't make any sense. We kind of do that as human beings where we seek to impose a rationale on irrational events. It's how we're psychologically wired. So what this means is, though, and why I'm going over it, is extinction bursts happen at the end of something. MAGA is not gaining strength. You don't gain strength by taking over the federal government and then cutting it. You lose strength, especially when it's going to hit your followers and it's going to hurt them. You don't try to isolate basically the country that's the leader of the free world, and that's a strength move. You don't hitch your wagon to Russia that is crippled both militarily and economically. As John McCain famously called them, basically a petrol state instead of a narco state. They don't have a very strong and diverse economy because they've been in kleptocracy pretty much since the Soviet Union fell. So I'm not saying we're gonna escape the pain. There's not gonna be one big protest, or there's not gonna be one thing that kind of pulls us out of this. But this isn't while they may think it's some grand plan, that they're going to enact this techno-feudalism or whatever the hell delusions they have from, some adolescent 14-year-old in a 50-something-year-old man's body named Curtis Yavin that played way too much D&D and got way into it. I don't think that's possible. It might, but it's not likely. I think what is likely is we're witnessing an extinction burst of the patriarchy, of white supremacy, of corporate consolidation, of all these horrible things that were supposed to save us under Ronald Reagan and have really just done this great transfer of wealth to the top, 0.01%. Basically everybody making more than 17 million a year. That's why we have so many billionaires now, and that's why they have so much money. And they're basically trying to keep it going. But the ideology for what it produces in reality is tapped out. They're not opening new markets. They're not expanding reach. They're shrinking it. They're shrinking it down more and more for their own little base. And in a nation of 330 plus million people, or whatever we're at now, for now, the strongest economy in the world and the reserve world currency, the US dollar, for now, that's not going to fly, not for very long. And psychologically, subconsciously deep down, I think they know that. And that's why we're seeing essentially what is a temper tantrum. It's a revenge fantasy. And it sucks because we're all going to have to live through it. But anyway, that's all I got for you. Keep the faith, defend democracy, and I'll see you later.